I'm particularly sad and also honored to be skiing for my dear friend, Tom McSteen. Tom was an amazing source of energy. He created with Jerry Yance the low carbon crossing that ultimately led Mindy to bike across the country and for us to bring biking along with skiing into the Cool Planet, events that make a difference. This is a shot taken on Hennepin Avenue the day we got our new jerseys, designed by Tom's son, Colin, who went to school at Waldorf with my son, Christopher. Tom, he did so much. I mean, he worked at Medtronic as a lawyer. He was extremely smart and well-versed in everything. He left that job. He worked with the Pachamama Alliance. He was very involved with Minnesota 350. He started Sacred Discourse. I mean, there wasn't anything that he didn't do. And then he announced that he would be the president of Craig and Patricia Neal's Center for Purposeful Living. He's 60 years old. He went to visit his granddaughter in Salt Lake City. He had a stroke, got pneumonia, and died 10 days later. So it's extremely sad. And so Tom is on my ski right here. And I'll be thinking of Tom every time I move forward. And Tom's sister, Barbara, is here. So I just want to say, Barbara, your brother, as you know, was amazing. With 7 sisters, he had to be. Okay, next. This is very personal for me. Carol Teasdale in the center, holding 30 years of Birkie bibs. This was taken 11 years ago on my way up to the Birkie. Harold and I have skied more Birkies together than anyone in my close group. They started a beautiful home out or a village called Jackson Meadows out in Marine on St. Croix. And so I stopped to see them. Carol has been fighting cancer for 6 years. So after this picture was taken, and so I'm going to be skiing to bring health and wellness and relieving pain and anything that all of us can do, sending prayers to Carol and to Harold, and to let them know how everything is going. So Carol, I'm so honored that you're here with me. You know how much I love you, and I just wish everything for peace and comfort and healing. And you will be on my skis also. So thank you for being in my life and for being such a wonderful, warm soul that never gives up on anything.
Thank you so much, Paul. And definitely ski for me. Please, please, please. I've really missed skiing. I've only been out once this year, and so thank you for all your love and care, your words, your prayers, and ski on, boy. You too, Mindy.
Yeah,
take me with you, darling.
Okay.
I'll get to the finish line for sure.
Okay.
I also want to welcome John. I don't know if he's here, but John Sheriff is skiing his 20th Birkie. I saw him last year and he had injured himself and he was so bummed out because he was getting ready to become a birch legger. After you ski 20 Birkies, you join the birch legging group, and there are now 1,700 people that have skied 20 Birkies or more. And I said, but John, now you can ski 20 while I'm skiing 40. And Lauren and Mary Kay are here, and Bob, and I don't know, I can't see everyone right now, but we're honoring John and Melissa. John's doing his 20th, and welcome to the Birch Legging Club.
I do think John is here.
Oh, great. John,
we're here.
Hello.
Hey, you made it.
Hey.
Would you like to say something about your 20-year anniversary?
I'm getting old.
Uh, I remember your 20th, Paul, because you had all your bibs. Remember that? You had all 20 bibs. So I went
Yep.
back through my bib stash and I found my first Birkie bib. And I need to send this to you. I was wave 7. And so I took a picture of it. It's wave 7 and now wave 70. Or yeah, wave 70, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Is that Harold?
Harold is here.
Harold, hi.
Hi, Harold.
Carol,
Harold and
Harold and Carol. How are
Yeah.
you guys?
Hi there. Great to hear from you. We don't see you right now, but we can hear you.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Can't see me?
Paul, can you see us?
Yep, I can see you, but that's okay.
He might be on page 2 for you.
I can see John working on a ski, but
We
Great.
can see a photo of John.
Yeah, that's a
That's
great
John.
photo. John,
That's
I don't
me?
remember it, but there you are, scraping your skis, getting them fast. Wait,
That
when
doesn't-
John joined our group,
That doesn't look like me.
You look too young.
all right, well, I hope it is.
You're on video. I don't know why they can't see.
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
You're on video.
I spelled your name right. So Alex, what's gonna happen tonight?
Yes, thanks for that. You can just feel the community in the room, and that's really what this is about. So tonight we're
Where's
going
Bob?
to connect and celebrate and take some action as well. So we'll go over a little bit about what is Birkie 40 and how did this all get started. We will break into small groups and have a chance to connect to each other. Some people on the call know each other from a long time, and some people are fairly new. And so on these large group Zooms, sometimes it's just nice to have a
Can you
little
mute
bit of personal time. We will be regaled by some inspiring people and stories by Paul. He's got some really great photos from Birkies over the years and people that have influenced and inspired him. And later we'll do our second breakout and we will do different sessions. And we're really encouraging people to choose something that you have not experienced before. So we'll have each of the 4 organizations that we're raising money for are going to do a mini presentation workshop and give people some really useful tools. So Citizens Climate Lobby talking about Congress and you, Return Peace Corps volunteers about crafting a climate story, Braver Angels depolarizing red and blue America, and Greenhouse and Cool Planet about bringing climate solutions to your game night. We'll have a short close and then stick around for the after party and see more photos and connect more if you'd like to do that. But we'll close about 8:30 Central Time here, so in about an hour and 15 minutes officially, and then we'll have an after party. Next slide, please, Brett. So we're here to celebrate in part the beautiful life of Paul and his 40 years of service through the Birkie, starting with the Skiing to End Hunger and in the very beginning days of the Birkie, and then moving through to another big challenge and solving that, saving our winters and the sport that we love, the cross-country skiing and the Birkebeiner. And so we're excited to hear Paul tell his journey about that. Next slide, please. Oh, one. So this is a little update of where we are with the $40,000 that we are trying to raise with the Birkie 40. So we're looking to raise $40,000 for the Paul's 40th Birkie for 4 amazing organizations. And we're $25,000 in. So we're extremely excited about that. It's just been an incredible experience to do this. And I'm really grateful for the inspiration and the energy that Paul has to really catalyze and bring together such amazing people to work for such an amazing goal. You'll see at the bottom, donate, take action, and spread the word. And that's really our that's really our tagline, because this isn't only about raising money. It's not just about raising money. It's about taking action and making a bigger impact. We're going to come together and we're going to solve our biggest challenges, and that includes climate change. And just so excited to be a part of this effort that's helping do that. Without further ado, Paul, take us to Birkie Fever.
Birkie Fever. But before I go on, I just want to thank our team. You're going to meet the whole team in a while, but the work that Alex Dvorak has done has totally re-inspired me about the possibility of us actually getting the job done. I mean, with the Hunger Project, it was ending hunger in 20 years. And, you know, we have done a good job of alleviating hunger and poverty, but it still needs work. Climate change is off the scale. Talk to the people in Texas right now. We have a lot of work to do. And my work as a 72-year-old skier, golfer, Frisbee player is to transform the arena of sports and outdoor activities. I'm really excited about kind of the next 40 years of my life, but I don't think I'll be skiing Birkies for 40 more. Next, please. So these are pictures that none of you have seen, or this is the early days of the Birkie, where they started in Hayward and ended up at Telemark. Next slide. The dream of Tony Wise to bring national world cross-country champions to his Telemark Lodge. This is the Coliseum, which is now no longer there. After going through the 55 kilometers, you made a hairpin turn, went over the International Bridge, which has now become a staple with the Birkie, and then you can see the finish line right there. So they had many wonderful events at this event in the old days of the Birkies back in the 80s. Next slide. So my brother Peter gave me his skis. I broke my Birkebeiner wooden ski the year before, and I got hooked into fiberglass skis. Mindy actually found the hat that I'm wearing. Here it is. It's got a few mouse holes in it, but it's warm and I don't wear it anymore. But this was before the first, my first Birkie in '79, when you had to climb Valhalla Hill and come down at breakneck speeds, and probably 10% of the people crashed and broke themselves. Next slide. Yes, I do save things. The first pledge sheet. I expressed participation in ending world starvation by 1997. The goal of the Hunger Project, 104 people signed up, including all of the leaders of the Hunger Project and Werner Erhard himself, who started the Hunger Project. It's really fun to look for, and it has a real patina to it by now. Raised $1,000, and that was the beginning. Next. So let's see who's here. Claudia is right here. Terry Gibbs. Can you see my cursor? Yes?
No.
No? Okay. Terry's right in the middle. Anthony Hall's wife is back there. I don't see Anthony. Michael, I don't know if Michael is here now, but this was in 1982 with our banner, Ski to End No Hunger. Next one. The next one is kind of the most famous, the one that we use all the time. There's Bill Simpson on the left, Pat Kerrigan, D. Elwood, Harold and Carol right in the middle next to Claudia, Leah Skirdahl, Pat Gavin, and Steve Gordon right above them. Terry Gibbs and I over on the right, Paul Hoffinger in the lovely red outfit. We actually have quite a few people here. So this was with Wilfred Chaney, who you'll hear more about later. Wilfred was a downhill skier and became kind of an iconic supporter of Save the Children, and he was a downhill skier. Next, please. So hunger was the big issue, you know, for 30 years. And then when I was teaching second grade at Bancroft School, I started hearing more about climate change, the environment degrading, and I took early retirement in 2008, started Cool Planet, and quickly converted Skiers Ending Hunger to Cool Planet Skiers. Why? Next slide. Because winter, we can't count on winter anymore. Twice in the last 20 years, the Birkie's been canceled. In 2000, perfect conditions on Monday, 50 degrees, 10 inches of rain Friday night. People were devastated. In 2017, as noted in our movie, Saving Snow, 50 degrees all week, snowstorm didn't come. People very disappointed. Next. This is what the trail looked like in 2000. And yet there was a handful of people that skied, took off their skis and ran. They did the whole Birkie, which is totally a Birkie fever kind of thing to do. Next. The main street of Hayward, where you have the International Bridge and the finish. That's what it looked like. Next. And instead of having sprints on Main Street, they had roller. I guess you could say this is adapting to a changing world. But climate experts tell us that we can expect things like this on a more regular basis. So what we did next is we took action. We got Ben Popp, the director of the Birkebeiner, to totally get on board, starting a thing called Birkie Green, and said, can we bring our little sign up so that people could see it? So we had the sign at 00, and then we moved it to down the road. This was at Mosquito Brook, which is about 43 kilometers on the Birkie Trail. Next. Mindy and I and a host of volunteers have been at the expo every year, engaging people, getting them to write letters, talking about Citizens Climate Lobby, talking about the Climate Reality Project, Cool Planet Skiers, getting endorsements. And there's the backpack that was the first thing that got me thinking about what else can the Birkie do around sustainability? A pause means go ahead. So what we did on the year that 2017, we had people write letters to Congress, 512 letters. Everybody was so pissed off. They wanted to say, what's going on with Congress? How can we start taking action and connecting them with their Citizen Climate Lobby Group, which is working to build bipartisan support for legislation in Congress. And Mindy and they still had a festival, even though the race was canceled. People were in good spirits, but really, as Brett said in the movie, people aren't going to come back unless we can change this thing. So that's the power line with a scant amount of snow. And even now the Birkie is completely dependent on getting good snow, which they have this year, thank goodness. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. That was awesome. As a new Birkie person, I didn't know all that history. So we're gonna now break into small groups so that we can kind of chat and reflect about the rich history that's here. So the question is really simply, what brought you here tonight? So is it that you know Paul? Is it that you've been skiing the Birkie for a really long time, or maybe both, or interested in stopping climate change, or all three? And to kick us off and as a way to introduce our team, Brett, if you go to the next slide, please. We're going to have our team answer these questions first before we break up into the small group. So, all right, I will, just for expediency's sake, I'll call on some people. Jen, would you like to tell us about what brought you here tonight?
Yes, definitely. So a few years ago, I went up to that Birkie booth and signed up for Citizens Climate Lobby. and Paul asked me to help out. This will be my 4th Birkie this year.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. Betsy.
I first learned about the Birkie 5 years ago when I met my current husband 5 years ago, because he's done 16 Birkies. And so every year we've gone up there and it's been fabulous. But I've known Paul even longer than Jim. I met him through Craig and Patricia Neal. And of course, when you know Paul, you know he gets you right on board with all these efforts that he's into. Plus, Jim and I are really so passionate about Braver Angels. We've been to a number of their workshops, and we're thrilled that Braver Angels is one of the recipients this year. So on to 40.
Awesome, thanks. And I should also say, Jen has been helping Birkie 40 with, so tell us about how you've been helping Birkie 40 too. And I'll just say Jen's been helping Birkie 40 with social media. And Betsy has been helping us write letters, and I'm probably forgetting a bunch of other things. This team is great at just pitching in and picking things up. So thank you. Let's go to Doreen next.
Okay. I have known Paul, I don't even know when we met. It's a long time ago, the late 70s maybe. And I was involved in hunger activities back then. And I've been out to the Birkie a few times, but I haven't skied it. I was out there helping out with the booth at the expo, and then taking my daughter out, who's on this call. Also for, I think it was the Prince Håkon, but she can correct me. Yeah, and I've been quite active in climate change activism for a number of years.
Great, thank you, Doreen. Kim, would you like to go next?
I met Paul on January 6th, the day of the insurrection. He said, as he's in his house doing Zoom, I'm in my kitchen, and he says, "You got to turn your TV on." So I said, okay. So there we are. That's our initial connection. But really, our connection is that Braver Angels works with climate, the climate lobby group, to really talk, to figure out how do we talk about really difficult topics across the political divide. It can be across the political divide, across the racial divide, the rural-urban divide, but we put on workshops that Paul has been to, and Paul is also a member of Braver Angels. We are the lucky recipients of one of the of some of the money that's coming from all of your fundraising, because what we're doing is we are just like people that are working on climate. Is we are trying to change the topic and the conversation, because we have to solve this major problem. Well, many major problems, and the way to do it is learning how to have the skills to have those conversations, which is what Paul is an expert at.
Yes, thank you, Kim. That is such an important point, is that 3 of the organizations that we're donating to with Birkie 40 are directly involved in climate change, and Braver Angels is also supportive of that, because essentially in order to get things done here, we really need to depolarize our politics. So we're really excited. And if you're interested in more, Kim will be leading a session later today. All right, Caitlin, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Caitlin. I'm here actually in Lake County, Illinois. I met Paul through the Citizens Climate Lobby subgroup for Return Peace Corps volunteers. And I started working about 2 months ago, only on Birkie 40. So I'm pretty new, having a good time and excited to meet everyone.
Thanks, Caitlin. Mindy, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'm Mindy Aller. I am currently married to Paul Thompson. And actually, there are many on this call that I've heard your names for years and have not had a chance to meet you. So this is really exciting. I first met Paul working on climate issues, and one of the ways we connected was, if you're going to do something tough with your body, you might as well really make it worth it, and raise funds for a good cause. And that quickly led me to the Birkie for the first time. And then this year, I will now be skiing my 4th Birkebeiner.
Awesome. Thanks, Mindy. Pat.
Okay. Hi. My name is Pat Corcoran, and I've been working with, volunteering with Cool Planet at different booths and things and Frisbee festivals. And I've also skied the Cordelopa and the Prince Hawken with Cool Planet skiers. So that's how I've known Paul and Mindy. And Paul and Mindy also gave some presentations to my biology class about climate change. So I know them from that. So that's where, and I've been involved with climate change things, CCL and Cool Planet. So
Awesome, thanks. Brett.
Paul's the reason we're all here, the reason for the season. And I got to know him back when I was an undergrad. And then eventually, as I started a CCL chapter in 2011 up here in the Bemidji area of Minnesota, and have been involved and inspired ever since. And I'm so grateful to hear the backstory tonight of everyone's stories with Paul throughout the years. So thanks for regaling us with your tales.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, I'll go last and then we'll break out into the breakout rooms. I'm Alex Dvorak. I met Paul a couple of years ago when I was speed dating climate organizations, trying to figure out, where do I fit in all of this? And last year I went to the Birkebeiner. I've never skied it. I almost don't cross-country ski at all. Like I've only done it a couple of times, but I went to table at the expo for Citizens Climate Lobby and for Cool Planet. And it was such an amazing experience where people really engaged in climate change. The skiers there were really interested. And I'm dedicating my life to climate change. And it's just such a pleasure to have organizations and actions to do to really make a difference. So my role on Birkie 40, I've been kind of playing the program manager and doing a variety of things from writing to social media to helping Paul set priorities to creating the slideshow with Paul to a bunch of things. So it's just been really fun to be here. All right, next slide. We just want to repeat here. So the idea, we're going to break you out for about 10 minutes. And there's going to be about 4 people. And just share out. How do you know Paul? What's your connection with the Birkie? What's your interest in climate change? And just make some connections with folks. Are you ready to break us out, Brett?
Yeah, everyone should basically just see a little join room button with a countdown timer. And in 10 minutes, we'll see you back here. All these instructions are in the chat. And if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. Let's have fun, everyone.
Join.
Ooh.
You have to join a meeting, so you have to pick one to join.
Aren't they telling you this is the one you're doing?
I guess this one here, yeah.
And for Bob, Daryl, or Paul, let me know if you have any issues trying to connect with your room. I'd love to help get you there if you're having a hard time seeing the join button. And we can just hang out in here too, if that's easiest. I'd love to hear for those that can't join, if you'd like to have our own little mini breakout room here, a little bit about each of your backgrounds. You can click on the little mute icon. It's normally on the left side of your black Zoom toolbar with a microphone to unmute. There we go. I'll try unmuting you guys there. I think you have to click around if you on your phone, it may be on the bottom left corner instead too. Feedback, but thank you for being here, and we'll kick it back to you, Alex.
Hey, Carol, it's interesting. We just heard you. We were not hearing Carol in our breakout room, but then when she came back to the main room, we could hear her. So sorry about that. Technology is sometimes a joy and sometimes crazy. So, okay. On the next slide, Brett, thank you. So we are going to hear some stories from Paul next, but we want people to select their breakout room, which we'll do after the stories from Paul. And we need you to select your breakout room in the chat. Because Brett will have to do some wizardry to manually move us all around to whatever breakout room you prefer. So we're going to have each of us who are doing breakout rooms to quickly describe what you'll do in that breakout room so that you can choose which one you want to go to. Mindy, could you get us started, please?
Certainly. We all know that climate change is a huge challenge that will take many creative solutions to address, but a key one is you and you talking with your member of Congress. So in our breakout session, I will introduce you to Citizens Climate Lobby, if you are not familiar with us, and the bill that we happen to be advocating for as a way to address climate change. And I will give you some actions that you can take right away of how you can be a more active constituent with your member of Congress. So come join me to talk about Congress and you.
Awesome. Caitlin.
I'll be joining with Brady Ferguson. We're both returned Peace Corps volunteers. I served in the Philippines and Brady served in Kiribati. We will be sharing how to craft your climate story, sharing some tips for crafting a story. We'll both share stories from our time in the Peace Corps that have to do with climate change. And then we'll have a drafting and brainstorming session for you to start working on your stories. Like Mindy said, I think there's a lot of ways that we can a lot of angles we can go towards to solve this problem, but stories move people. So feel free to join us and share some of yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Kim, please introduce yours. And I do want to mention, Kim said, I don't do headshots. So we put the Braver Angel picture up there. So to see Kim, go to her breakout room.
Yeah, it's really not about me. It's about what our mission is. Our mission is to depolarize America. And it is a noble, at many times feels like it's an impossible mission, but we provide all sorts of strategies and skills and workshops and debates and one-on-one conversations for all sorts of different, any kind of person along any political divide or any divide. It is, what we're going to talk about is how has depolarization impacted you, and how do we solve this problem? Because we have some of the strategies to help solve it. We can't live as a country like this. We're in a terrible position, and hate is a terrible place to live. So we need to come up with better strategies than hate, because we know that doesn't work. So join me, it'll be really fun. We'll learn a lot about Braver Angels and how you can help change the world.
Awesome, thank you, Kim. Lastly, I'll be in breakout room 4. So I designed a climate change game. And one of the things that I discovered as I started working on climate change is that it feels really far away from people. It feels like too complex for people. And I wondered, how could we bring climate change and climate change solutions to people's kitchen tables? So I worked with a co-creator and we designed a game. It is fun. It is full of hope. We get to play on each other's actions. And what we'll do on the breakout is I'll explain a little bit about the game. We'll have 4 people playing it. I'll walk people through that. And then other people can just watch. So you can either play or watch depending on your interest in the climate change solutions at your game night. All right, so as Paul is going, I'm going to turn it over to Paul, and please put in the chat what you are going to go to in the breakout room, and I'll repost that in the chat as well in case you can't remember which number. And so select that, and Brett will be breaking us out as Paul is continuing his stories. Take it away, Paul.
Thank you, Alex. I had a chance to look at who's here, and I just want to say, John and Marie, great to see you. Pat and Steve, it's been a long time. Really great to see you, and thank you for connecting. We're going to see a lot of pictures at the end of the night, but I wanted to tell you about this gentleman, and I'm sure that Lynn Nelson can help me too. Wilfred Cheney called me up when we were down at Save the Children in River Place, and we had our big swanky office and craft shop. And I heard this old voice on the thing, and he said, "I want to help the kids." And I'm like, "Oh, that's nice, an old man that wants to help out." He became the most prolific fundraiser I've ever seen. Wilfred, you can move the next slide. Besides being a beekeeper, a farmer, and having 1 million grandkids, Wilfred would go door to door in like 7 different towns in central Minnesota, from Lionel Lakes to Princeton to Cambridge to North Branch. That's a pile of checks. He would have a pile of checks that he handed to me every single time I saw him, and he raised $10,000 to $15,000, getting 25 cents a run, and then he'd go ski 50 runs at Wild Mountain. He was a good skier, just an amazing man. Next one. There he is. You can tell by his form. I mean, 50 runs at 80 years old down, Wild Mountain's not a huge mountain, but it was pretty incredible. And he always wore that orange suit. That was kind of his deal. Plus that hat. He made that hat famous for the early version, the second version of Ski to End Hunger. Next, please. And he loved to talk. He loved to talk to kids. He loved to talk to interviewers. He would always relate his story to what he learned from bees. As a beekeeper, he saw bees as the way to learn about community and how to work together. And I just think meeting Wilfred changed my life, because he was a role model, which I hope to be for younger people now, in the way that he operated. And I got to know his family, and I got to do the eulogy at his memorial service. So Wilfred really changed my life completely. Next. And then Lynn, are you here, and do you want to talk about this picture and your experience with Wilfred?
Paul, I think the thing about Wilfred that was most inspiring is that he learned how to ski when he was 62 years old, and he kept going for 20 years. And I think a lot of us who are older now can really take something from the fact that it's not too late to really embrace something. And he had a whole community that he, was able to connect with, which I think was really important to his, zest for life. So I think we benefited each other, and he was an inspiration.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when he won the 11 Who Care award, that was like a big deal for Ski to End Hunger, because, that gave us a lot of publicity. Next slide, please. All right, this is a quiz. Who are these young people? You can unmute yourself.
Ann Bancroft and Will Steger.
Right, very good. That's
And
Will
Paul Thompson.
And they were early members of our Cool Planet Skier advisory team. I can't believe how young Will looks. But they were active and talk about, ongoing keeping fit and making a difference. There you go. I mean, Ann's continuing to do her work with empowering girls and, traveling around the world on water quality, and will never stop. I mean, they'll find Will on top of some mountain, at 98. Next, please. And then we had Bill McKibben. I met Bill in 2009 in Copenhagen at the UN Climate Conference. I knew he had been to a Birkie before, but I didn't know him then. But we met on the subway. We became friends. I invited him to the Birkie, and in 2013 he came. He spoke at McAllister. He spoke at St. Thomas. He spoke 3 times up in Hayward. And one night I said, Bill, thanks for your work. And he looked at me and he said, no one has ever worked me this hard. I'm going to take tomorrow off. And so Friday, he totally just rested, and then he skied the Birkie on Saturday. He finished the Birkie in 3 hours and 55 minutes. And he said, I'm so glad I was in the ballpark of 350. Bill has just retired recently from 350, and he tweets and writes prolifically. If you haven't read Bill's books, it'll be a huge wake-up call. Bill is with James Hansen and Sam Harris, kind of early folks saying, let's go, guys, let's get moving. Thank you, Bill. Next. And then this, I love this picture because in it was 80, maybe Pat Gavin can tell me, 84, 85, we put these bibs on the back of our jerseys that said "Ski to End Hunger," and we had a couple hundred people wearing them. We got into big trouble.
They're illegal.
It's illegal to attach anything to the bib, but we pulled it off, and one of the leaders actually put his "Ski to End Hunger" thing on the top of his bib, and so it actually covered part of his number. And oh my gosh, we heard about that forever. But it was one of those, ask for forgiveness rather than how does it go? Help me out.
Ask for forgiveness rather than permission.
That's right.
Or proceed until apprehended.
Thank you. We quickly apologized, and now I'm actually friends with the guy who was so upset. Okay. I think that's it. I don't know if Brett has everything arranged for our work sessions.
Yeah. Would you want us to go right now, or do you want to do a little intro first? What you tell me?
We are ready to go if everyone's selected.
I think so. Unless there's if anyone has a question about one of the groups and you don't know what to do, are there any questions? Otherwise, we'll just.
I'll open all rooms, and then for those that have questions, feel free to stay here in the main room. And again, just to time check, is this a 15-minute breakout?
No, it was going to be 30. How are we doing on time, Alex?
I think we should do 25 or 23.
Yeah, let's do 23.
Great. Okay, let's do 23 minutes, Brett.
All right, so we'll see you back here in 23. The countdown timer has begun. And for those that have questions, you can basically just stay in here and I'll help assign you to one of those rooms. But everyone else should see that click to join and you'll be with your friends.
The greenhouse game that we just played is available as the reward, as the gift for donation. So if you want Brett has his, excellent, an early play tester. We play tested at last year's Birkie with a bunch of Citizens Climate folks, and it was so excellent. So you can get your game by donating. You can get the online version, a print at home version, or for 140 or more donation, you can get the physical copy of the game. So, all right, next slide. As we move to close here, we just don't have a lot of time to kind of share, but can you just share in the chat your experience of the breakouts? Share a highlight for people and let people know which one you went to, because so many people, there's so much good stuff going on. So just share some highlights. I'll read them off quick. And then we'll go on to close here in the after party.
And I'm hearing from Jen that everyone should hear the Kate and Brady's climate stories, and we don't have time to hear them, but I'm so excited because what we're learning is the science and facts are really nice, but they don't move people to take action. What really moves people is the heart connection with stories. And so Caitlin and Brady, do you want to share just anything. How was the workshop? Like maybe just give us a 1 minute, like what was it like? Brady, why don't you go? Because Caitlin talked before.
It was good. I wish we had more time. I guess one of the challenges of telling a story is telling a story within a given amount of time, but it was good. Kate, I really liked hearing Kate's story. That was my first time hearing it. And we appreciate everyone who came to our breakout room. They asked us some good questions and learned something from it. So thank you.
Cool. And one of the great groups that everyone can go to is Climate Generation right here. Maybe Brett can put that in the chat. They focus a lot on storytelling and have some wonderful workshops. And Nicole, their leader, is a Birkie skier. So she skied with us a few times. Who else would like to share briefly about their breakout session? I'd love to hear someone from each one. Braver Angels was one of the people at Braver Angels, not Kim, could share. And then if you don't share, then Kim will tell us. You just have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'll share. Hi, Paul.
Hi, who is it?
John.
Hey, John. How was this workshop?
It was awesome. Braver Angels definitely learned some stuff, and just shared a couple of my experiences with dealing with a couple of my really good friends, but having completely opposing political and religious views, and yet we can talk about it. We respect each other when we're done. We can argue, we can heatedly argue, but yet when we're done, it's like handshake. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
Nice.
We need a little more of that.
Excellent. And how about somebody from Mindy's group in CCL? Did you commit to the calling campaign? What did you do?
Well, Mindy just kind of filled us in on what was possible. We talked about when there might be legislation, but it looks promising.
Nice. And that's Michael Bowler, who skied 20, how many Birkies, Michael?
21. It'll be 22
21.
this year.
All right. You're going to have to stay pretty fit to catch me. Great to see you. And the greenhouse game. I bet everybody's like, wow, why should I give 140? I can just go buy it from Alex. How was it? Who played the greenhouse game?
It was great fun, and we just got a little teaser. So then next week we're going to really dive into it. You did a great job, Alex.
Calling back.
Hi, Aaron.
You did.
Excellent. Yeah, I was curious how you play a game online, because more people are choosing, when they give $40, they can have the online version or the print and play, and the online version is the most popular. But I am encouraging people to get the box set, because it gives us more money and it gives you the thing that you can actually play, and the pieces are colorful and gorgeous. Anybody else? We have time for one more. Amazing how fast an hour and a half goes. Well, thank you all. I hope that was a good experience for you. And Alex, anything to read in the chat?
Just everyone had a great time and learned a lot. It was clear, like, it's just so powerful, the groups that we've brought together and the different angles in which we are all trying to address this issue of climate change and depolarizing ourselves. And so, like, I wish everyone could have experienced more than one breakout, and maybe we'll do some more. I know that, like with Braver Angels, for instance, you can get involved and go to a workshop. So like they run workshops regularly. And so maybe Return Peace Corps volunteers, maybe we'll run some of these things too. And Citizens Climate Lobby is always having ways of getting involved. And we're going to start running greenhouse games online too. So this is not the last time that you'll be able to experience everything and get more involved.
Yeah, because depolarizing, as Leah says in the chat, depolarizing climate change. Let's move ahead. So it's really great to hear.
Can you
reading
hear
all
Paul?
these
Paul,
Daryl here? Yeah.
Daryl?
Yeah, I just recently retired and I've been into solar and, you know, the white roofs all these years and that. And I'm just trying to figure out how I can contribute because the white roofs are the highest Energy Star and the solar I got and that. So that's what I'm trying to do and get into groups with that and push the white. It gets rid of heat on end effect. That's something I really know and I'd like to work with somewhere to get involved with what I know on the solar and the white roofs, the energy efficient roofs.
Would you, in the chat, Daryl, would you put in your contact information and say white roofs so people can reach out to you?
White roofs and solar.
Yep, so put that in the chat so
Okay.
people can see it.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you.
To honor our time, we're going to say this is the official end. Oh, it's nice to see everybody again. But I've got about 100 slides and lots more stories, and I would love to hear from Pat and Steve, because I haven't heard much from you, and chat a little bit. So if you can stick around, this is a good time. Oh, and Claudia, you got your doggy there. Nice. So I guess the final word is I'm not stopping until we get to $40,000 because 10 grand will make a huge difference for each of these groups. These are all, the only group that is big by any means is Citizens Climate Lobby. If we can get to $40,000, it will really change everything. I know it will alter Cool Planet completely. The Peace Corps folks are trying to figure out, do we provide grants for other Peace Corps volunteer groups around the country? And there are 184 of them. Can we support them in taking action, on climate? I know my Minnesota group is now looking at what are the biggest impacts that we can take on climate change, personal impacts. And we're starting with population because having a kid is the biggest climate impact that we have by far. So it's very exciting when you tell people, what do you want to do and how can you help? So right now, you can help by sharing this information. Caitlin has been doing a great job of doing Instagram and Twitter posts and Facebook. And so if you could send people to the addresses there at Cool Planet Skiers on Facebook and at Cool Planet MN on Twitter and Instagram, or you can just share with your friends. We want contributions, but then we want actions. So this is a week to spread the word. We've had 2 wonderful articles. I don't know if we can pull those up. We don't have to, but Edina Paper did an article yesterday, and we were also featured in the Silent Sports magazine, focusing on Birkie Green, which is the sustainability project of the Birkebeiner, started by us in Cool Planet, and now they're taking it and running with it. So I just want to thank all of you for coming. This has been really fun for me. Of course, I'm disappointed there's not 200 people here, but that's just me. The people that are here are wonderful. I feel so great to see people I haven't seen for a long time. And I won't name names, but you know who you are. And to my Birkie 40 team, I'm so thrilled for what we have accomplished and what we are accomplishing and what we will do next.
I've started
in our own lives. So, I'll think of Tom and think of Carol and think of all of you as I trudge through my 44 kilometers. Jim beat me by an hour last year. I'm going to see if I can keep up with him this year. But I'm skiing with Mindy the whole way because there's no cell phone service and we have to take care of each other in case one of us falls. But I am skiing on the wooden skis that I got from my friend Dave Peterson. They're right behind me. They're beautiful and they're nice and slow. So it'll keep me safe and hopefully upright the whole way. So this is the official end. And for those who can stay, I urge you to stay and we'll open up the mic and tell some stories and look at some more pictures. So thank you and don't leave.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Let's go to the after party.
After party. Grab a beverage.
Call him back.
Thank you, Paul.
Look, people are staying.
I don't know how to get.
Paul, Jean had a question in the chat that I don't know the answer to. Where can I get the Silent Sports Magazine article?
That's a good one. You can subscribe online. Just go to Silent Sports Magazine. The article was really brilliant. I mean, it was written by a Birkie skier, and he talked to Ben Pop and Nancy Knutson, who Ben is the Birkie director, and Nancy is the media person. And they asked me if I could also, I don't know if we can pull that up. Mindy, can we pull that magazine up, that article?
I put the link for their website in the chat. Can I actually look at the?
Where do you see it? You see it?
What are you looking for?
The link she's talking about.
You go to chat.
I don't know about going to chat.
Open here to chat.
Okay.
It's not doing anything.
Click on the box. Click on
I
the
did.
word. No, you're not. Now you are in it.
This is really high tech. You're gonna open up the paper.
Here, I found it. I'm gonna share my screen.
Oh, good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, but Pat and Steve have a copy of it, but here's the article. It's very detailed, and it really, I mean, just think about kind of getting all of these, you know, golf tournaments, ski races, biking, everything outside to start showing the latest in sustainability. That's Ernie St. Main. He's the only person that skied all 46 Birkies. And he's still really skiing. There's the article.
This is the Edina one, right?
The Edina article.
Yeah. Is that online yet, Paul? I think you said it was.
The Edina one is online.
Okay.
If you go to Sun Current Edina, you can find the article there.
Let me see if I can.
Comments. Thank you. Nice comments. Well, should we do pictures, or does anyone want to say anything about their workshop?
Which month is this? Which month is your article in?
The one you hold that up.
No, it's not this one. This is different.
Oh, you're right. Oh,
this
that's
is January.
Yeah. Okay, it's Silent Sports, and it's the Birkie edition.
February. We haven't gotten that one yet.
No. So you have a subscription.
Yes. We do. We have a subscription, but we haven't gotten that one yet.
Yeah. It's just released, so you'll get it soon. It's a good magazine. I mean, they do everything, all the human-powered sports. Craig, question.
Yeah. Could you put the link to how to donate in the chat? I'm sure you've done it, but do it again, because Patricia and I would like to make a donation, and so
Alex, you on
whoever
that?
could, yeah, do that.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
we're gonna make $100 donation because we think it's great, and you know I told Paul that I wasn't going to make a donation. I just want to be transparent. And, but after tonight and going, and listening to everybody, it's just, we couldn't not. So I just want to say that to encourage others that perhaps haven't quite gotten there yet. This is really, really important. So thank you, Paul, Alex, Mindy, all the rest of you for doing this tonight. It was very moving.
Thank you. And thank you for getting Barbara to come. I hope she felt some peace and some love to know that her brother will not be forgotten, and we can live into his legacy.
And I think Pat, his other sister was here too.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
I know. She was hard to, Yeah, I
Okay,
don't know if
so-
she wanted to be recognized.
I think I saw his sister Margaret also check in the chat when they first came on.
Oh, good, good. Okay, great.
Yep.
That
And-
was really sweet to
Yeah.
acknowledge Tom and the sisters.
Thank you, Craig.
You bet.
Yeah. See you in the morning.
You bet.
Craig and I are lake walkers. Saturday morning, 8 o'clock for 10 years. Cool. All right, Anthony, you got anything to say? I'd love to hear your voice. Why is unmuting such a difficulty?
Anthony, you're on mute. Sorry about that.
I clicked it.
There we go.
There
We
we
hear
go.
you now.
Now it's on. Yeah, I was just clicking on the link for the donate page so I could bookmark it on my computer, so I can go back to it and donate later.
Back off.
Thank you.
I also put in the chat that I've got a whole binder of slides on the many events leading up to the early skiing to end hunger and save the children stuff. So I'm going to get those out and see if I can't get them over to you so you have them.
Beautiful. Yeah. In fact, many of the slides that I was going through getting digitized either said Anthony Hall or Daryl Shopfeld, and you're both here now. So photographers like to stick around.
Yeah.
You have
that right.
Hi, Claudia.
Claudia, you want to talk or are you gonna leave?
I was just waving, Paul.
Oh, good.
That
I
was a
just want
wave.
everyone to know Claudia was the heart and soul of the 80s for Cool Planet. Well, it was before Cool Planet. It was Save the Children and the office down below Stussy's chiropractic office. Wow, that seems like a long time ago. We would smell the Kentucky Fried Chicken all day long.
She's the one that introduced us to
Thanks,
Steve.
Paul.
I'm so glad you're here. I do. I have a number of pictures of Claudia now, so let's go look at them. You want to see some pictures?
Sure.
All right, Alex, let's roll, and people can just ask questions or talk. Leave your unmuted.
Awesome.
You want to share, Alex, or do you want me to?
I can do it. I was just bringing it up here. Thanks.
Brett's gone. I got to tell Brett the whole Somalia story that he knew nothing about.
Yeah, that's what he shared. Oh, I don't want to share this. I wanted.
That's what he had done. Yeah, he had put
present.
that in the chat. That was something he loved, that he'd never heard that story.
All right, after party. Let's party.
Harold, how many can you name?
Oh my gosh.
Bob, Paul.
Now, does
Yeah.
my cursor work?
No, probably not.
Oh,
I
that's
have to
Connie.
share.
I was going to say, oh, you'd
Yeah.
only see Alex
Yeah.
cursor.
So Harold and I
if you
are on the
pointed.
left-hand
Andy.
side. Bob was there tonight, and Lauren, the tall bearded man in the back, and Mary Kay in the red. They were also here tonight. This
Yeah.
is our group of Minnesota Valley skiers. This is where I really learned to be like a half-ass skier. Like I had my one Birkie under 4 hours because of this training group. And more than half of these skiers were like really good skiers, including Harold. Next. And there we are in our outfit. Woohoo!
Paul Gage in the middle.
You still have this outfit, right, Paul?
There, it's right here. I wear it.
I've got that.
Mindy hates it. I love it.
He only wears the top.
Yeah,
Hold on.
the bottoms are really weird, but I
I need
never
a
had a
credit
racing
card.
suit before, and I'm certainly not a racer, but that's us. And then there's one more picture of them too. We met every Wednesday night out at Highland. Andy in the back with the big smile works at Hoygaard's, and he was the kind of the head honcho. But we were being coached by Steve Gaskin, who was the Olympic coach, and you know, he would talk nutrition and he would talk sleep and he was really impressed because I had pictures on my skis. And he said, that's a really inspirational thing to do. So that's what I've always done. And I felt like, okay, I could contribute. And the next picture is on the stage at Telemark, and Claudia, you're there in the back with Pat Kerrigan. We're celebrating my 20th, so this was 21 years ago. And John, you see Harold peeking out on the left? Right above him is John, who's got his 20th this year, and his wife, Melissa. They were here earlier. So this is a good group, and getting reconnected with them is really fun, you know, because they're all still skiing. Next. So Janine Evenson used to live in Linden Hills, and when we turned 20 with the Birkie, we realized that we were neighbors. And we have skied all 40 Birkies together, including the only Birkie that we both missed because of like the birth of my son and something for her. So we both missed 1990 because that's when Christopher was born. And then now we are having our 40th. She's skiing tomorrow on the Birkie Trail virtually. And Mindy and I will ski a week from tomorrow. And then we'll see her. We're getting our trophies, and we're going to bring, she's going to pick them up, and I'm going to go see her on my way back down to get our 40-year trophy. So that's at a birch legging. There we are again. So every year we take a picture. That's 10 years ago. That was the 30. So when we got our gold bib, you go from purple to gold at 30. Next. And there's Janine and I at our 20th anniversary. All of those men and two women became 20. Now it's like 50 people every year become birch leggers. I mean, it's amazing when you think about the number of Birkies that this group of people have skied. There are, I think I'm kind of like 200th place, and I'm going to have skied 40. So there's a lot of old timers doing this thing. Next. Ben Pop in the green and Gail Otterholt next to Mindy. Ben is really has transformed the American Birkebeiner Ski Foundation into a major force. I mean, they do events 24/7 year round. They're doing the Fat Tire Birkie 2 weeks after, and with the changing winter, biking is becoming, you know, it's going to be more popular than skiing as winter slowly disappears. But Ben is fantastic. He's an elite athlete that used to work in St. Paul. Now he's settled down up outside. He lives in one of those little towns that you go through on the way to Hayward, about 20 miles outside. But he's fantastic. And if you haven't seen Saving Snow, Ben is a big part of that movie, talking about, you know, what we could do with the money if we didn't have to spend it all on transporting snow and making snow. He did go to DC with us, and he lobbied Congress. So he's got his heart in the right place. And the more he can hear from all of us about sustainability, keep going, and, you know, really supporting us, because we're leading the drive. And there are a lot of skiers that still have a huge carbon footprint. Transportation is the next big thing that he wants to attack, is figuring out how to bus people to the Birkie and stop bringing up, you know, 10,000 big SUVs. Next. I can't remember the name. Lynn, are you still here? Lynn Nelson? We had an advertising company that came up with this. Maybe the answer to ending hunger will come from above. And then they also did billboards with ski tracks. And I can't remember the phrase. I should have that one. But this is when we moved down to River Place, and we had money, and we could do things like hiring agency. Next. Mark is not here, but Mark is a dear friend who's skied. He's skiing with us next Saturday, and you've met Harold. So this was in, what's it say, 28. So this would have been like in 2008, when we were staying in a little house up outside of cable. He stayed there for 2 or 3 years with Lynn Larson's son. Okay. And every year from 2013 up until now, we've always gone to the Park Theater and done some presentation. Jim Bolter, the man in the middle with the suit coat, is a climate scientist that teaches at Eau Claire. And Linda Hersher, the shorter woman in the front, and her son holding the newspaper is Dan. They run a resort, and they've been big supporters and major donors to Citizens Climate Lobby and also to our work. And these are a group of people left at the end of our presentation at the Park Theater. Another one of Harold and me on 30, 22. Go ahead. Part of the Birkie is always the people. And this is one of the groups, Tim and Jessica. Jessica works with Sierra Club. And there's Pat Corcoran. In the back is Nicole Rahm, who heads up the Climate Generation. And there's Brett with his glasses, and Harold. We just finished our big carbo load meal. Next. And this is me doing some kind of, what is that person falling down? Maybe I knocked him over. I didn't even see that person. This is just before coming onto the bridge over 63 and then down Main Street. So yeah, those are my older skis. So this is back around 2008, 2010. But I had already changed from skating to classic. In fact, this year will be my 20th classic. So I'll have 20 skates and 20 classic, but I will not go back to skating. Okay, next one. This is an amazing picture because there's so many people. This is like after the Birkie. It was in our first 10 years, because I remember this house, and people would just sit around and tell stories. So we're all kind of recovering from the Birkie and listening. It looks like Stephen Sewell is talking. There's Kate Maxwell Williams. She's not here tonight. Okay. So Jenny Fowler, somebody I couldn't find, but she was an Edina high school racer. She was like 20 years old, and she was like the first time we had a really good skier. This is Jenny at the end of the Birkie, picking up her pin that they give you at the end of the Birkie and just showing our wonderful banner. And I don't think I took the picture. Claudia took that banner and they framed it and got it signed by all these people. And I was using that frame to reach out to people this year, and actually got a few. Next.
Oh, Paul?
Yeah.
Oh, listen.
Does it look anything like this?
No, you got it. Wow, that's beautiful.
That's
Can everybody see that?
my first Birkie.
Yeah, that was your first?
It was my first.
And how many have you finished?
23
Wow.
Birkies, 7 Quartalopets, 2 World Masters, and 1 Global.
Wow. And what year was the first one? 83? 83.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I used to keep track of that stuff in a book, but I don't know where it is now.
But you
That's
do
very
have
cool,
that
Steve.
first hunger pledge sheet, Paul. So you've got some stuff.
That's Terry
So
Gibbs, isn't it?
Terry chose to put his banner on the front, and he's got his medal. So that must have been his first, because you get this great big beautiful medal with the story of the two Birkebeiner, the Vikings that saved the young Prince Haakon. It's quite a deal, and it's 1206. So this is an 800-year tradition, the Birkebeiner.
Paul, was Terry here tonight?
Earlier.
Yeah.
Because I remember him.
Yeah.
When we
He's still
did it.
doing his sustainability stuff, but being Jewish, he had his Shabbat services this evening.
Oh, because he was very nice during that time, I thought. Very, very helpful.
Yeah, that is Terry. I'm gonna go get my medal to show people. And Richard Shapiro said he would come, but he's not here, so I won't tell you this story. But here's my Birkie medal, and on the back, they used to in the old days carve in the number. So I was the 2,110th person to ever complete the Birkie. And there's a story. Torsten and Skirvald are the two Birkebeiners, and you can see the little baby. You have to see it up close, but that's about as close as you can see it. So it's worth a Google to find out the history, because the little prince became the most famous and well-loved king in Norway's history, and he would not have made it had it not been for the rescue. And they actually made a movie called Birken, and they showed it at the Birkebeiner, and it's an awesome adventure movie showing these guys plowing through the woods and going through trees, and all the Birkie skiers really were impressed with the movie. If someone can look up that and put it in the chat, that would be great. Okay, thank you, Terry. There's Lynn and Terry. We're obviously not cross-country skiing. Out at Wild Mountain, we were there supporting Wilfred, and Terry is a really good skier. Man, when I saw him go, he was like beautiful, carving back and forth. Terry this winter has skied. He just turned 70, and he skied like 73 days in a row through all of the cold weather. So he's doing the fitness thing at 70. I always love the Birkie seeing scenes like this. This is going down the power line, and you know, it's like this for the first 10, 15, 20 kilometers, and then finally it starts spreading out. And once in a while, you can actually almost be alone, at least when you ski like I do. But at the beginning, you really have to watch out for not stepping on somebody's poles when you're going up the hills. Next. Can't remember his name, but it's a cool picture. He was one of our, we had one couple had two boys, and they got really involved. This was up at the Vasaloppet, which is in Mora, Minnesota, patterned after the Vasaloppet in Mora, Sweden, which Mindy and I visited in 2013. We went to both the Vasaloppet headquarters and the Birkebeiner headquarters just to meet the people. But I've never skied the World Loppet races like Steve. Oh, I would love that. And when we were in New Zealand 2 years ago, we went and stayed with the people that run the Merino muster. But it was the wrong season to ski. Next.
Just a quick story, Paul, about the Swedish Vasaloppet. Because the year I skied it, it was their 75th anniversary. And so instead of having 12,500 skiers, they opened it up to 15,000 skiers. And at that time, they would not seed a skier unless you'd skied the Vasaloppet before. So even if you had times from other World Loppet races, if you hadn't skied the Swedish Vasaloppet, you started at the back. So I was in the back of 15,000 skiers. It took me 11 hours to ski that race. And after I survived it, Pat almost killed me for taking 11 hours.
Well, how long the race is what, 90 kilometers, isn't it?
90K, yeah.
So you could like do the Birkie, turn around and go all the way back, you know.
It was a full day and night of skiing.
Yeah, Harold, have you done the Vasaloppet in Sweden? Is Harold still here? We might have driven him to bed. Okay. Steve, thank you. That's great. So here's Rebecca. Rebecca was the member of the team that couldn't make it tonight. And Rebecca is going to ski with us. You notice her skins on the underside. We're all using skins now. Even Mindy got skins this year, which are mohair strips. So you don't have to wax the kick zone. And it's very popular. Those are my fast skis. I'm only going to use those if the temperatures are so warm that the wooden skis are too difficult. But otherwise, I'm planning to do the whole thing on my Dave Peterson wooden skis. Next. Oh my God. This is the first time I really raced the Birkie. I mean, I wanted a fast time. I had done the Birkie in 6:42 and 5:37, and I said, I know I can get under 5 hours. And that's how I looked at the finish. Don't ask me if I broke 5 hours. I don't think I did. Oh man, I was so glad to have that man there. Then the next picture. The great thing about cross-country skiing, I ran a marathon twice, and it was terrible. I didn't even want to walk for a week. But with skiing, you're ready to go the next day. So this is our team of Birkie skiers in 1981. And this is before Ski to End Hunger, but we called it Ski Race to End Hunger. And the Ski to End Hunger became a real thing the next year. Claudia might remember Rick Varnum. Claudia, are you still here? No? Rick Varnum worked with Operation Bootstrap, and that year we raised money to build schools in Tanzania. And I didn't go to see the schools, but I wanted to. Nicole Rahm on the left, and Jim Bolter. Nicole is the head of Climate Generation, and Jim Bolter is our guest scientist speaker. And I'm sorry he's not here. He's such a wonderful guy. And he's one of those people that can answer all the questions respectfully, and he knows what he's talking about. So he's a good mix of science and CCL and Braver Angels. Next. Oh, 2018. Oh God, it was almost nighttime. that was a slow race that year. Oh God, that's enough. Next. You're supposed to be laughing.
I was.
Yeah, the dark glasses give it away. All right, next. This is what the Birch Legger 20-year award looked like 20 years ago. Now they've changed it. I thought this is a really classy award. Wait till you see the 40-year award. It's a crystal iceberg. Next. And that's the poster. And right down in the lower left-hand corner, you see a little face, and that's Lloyd. Lloyd was my roommate with Jim Lovestar, and he was a graphics person. And this is the first time I'd ever watched anybody put together like a poster. And I showed this to Lane, and he said, well, did you break 5 hours in 1981? So he actually read all of that stuff. So this was the first time we'd actually had anything that looked like a real pledge sheet. Thank you, Lloyd. Paul Gage and me at the start. I think by the lack of snow, this might have been one of those years where the Birkie was not a full race. And my son Christopher, with his medal, he skied, I think, 5 or 6 Barna Birkies, which is the race for kids from like 3 till 13. And I had him skiing at 3. Next. Pat Kerrigan, I'm disappointed he didn't come. He was a big part of the early Birkie.
This guy.
Pat is now very involved in regenerative agriculture and working with the Organic Consumers Association. And look at that hat, nice and white. That's the same hat I'm wearing tonight. Next. There's Harold and John and Elizabeth, or Melissa and Paul Gage. This was when we stayed on the lake by the casino. Can't remember the name of it, but we stayed there for 10 years. We kind of go to a place for 10 years and then another 10, and now it's all different. Next.
Hey, Paul, we're going to say goodbye now because we're going to leave. We just didn't want to just break off, okay?
No, thank you so much for coming.
I got to go down and wax some skis.
He's got to wax.
Yeah. I'm doing it tomorrow.
You're doing your Birkie tomorrow?
Tomorrow at O'Brien.
Wow, good. Well, Daryl says O'Brien's in good shape.
We'll see how things go.
So long.
Bye-bye.
Good
Great
luck.
seeing everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Gonna leave
Uh,
too. Thank you, Paul. I just so enjoyed it.
Yeah. Is Jen still here?
No,
Oh,
I
that
think
was
Jen had to leave.
Yeah. This poster or this sticker was made by Elena Tofty, who's a friend of Jen's from Harvard. And she was the one who created our logo. And it really gave us kind of a new look rather than, oh, it's a Cool Planet event. Cool Planet Skiers really became something because we named it. And we had this beautiful logo. I just love it. What's that? Oh my gosh, we're at the end, folks. This is what I was going to start it with. What do you think is going on here? Mindy, you can't talk.
I think you're pointing at something.
Uh-huh. This is a kind of a famous place, globally speaking. Oh, come on.
Are you jumping up?
I have no idea what it is.
What do you think is in the background?
A mountain.
A mountain?
A mountain, yes.
So what's the mountain on the planet?
Everest. Mount Everest.
Mount Everest, and the name of Mount Everest is actually Chomolungma.
Chomolungma, yeah, but that doesn't look like any Everest I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, that is the picture that's most common because it's taken from Kalapatar, which is a small mountain where you have to get up to see Mount Everest. The base camp is down about 1,000 feet below me, and this was my childhood dream from 5 years old to visit Mount Everest. And the reason I went into the Peace Corps was to see Mount Everest on the way home.
Wow.
So this was the culmination of that dream. And of course I had a Frisbee, and I needed the Frisbee to move just a little bit further down so it's in the white, but I'm leaping up to catch a Frisbee. It was a timed picture. So it was, anyway.
That's
I
great.
sat there all afternoon watching the mountain, and then the moon rose right here. Right, well, it's not my cursor, so I can't show you, but the moon
Why
rose.
doesn't it look that cold?
It's not that cold. I mean, I took off my big down jacket, but this was in November, which is the time when people aren't climbing the mountain. And it was cold at night, but not, 30s.
Okay.
What year was that?
That red thing in the front is his big down coat that's laying on the ground.
Yeah. I took that off. So there you have it.
Go there.
That's the end of the show.
What year was it, Paul?
This was, oh no, one more. Oh, cool.
Wait, but what year was this?
1974.
Okay.
Yeah, after teaching for 3 years. And this is the original Hunger Project committee. Tom Lutz, who was on the call earlier, or was on the Zoom, and Ann Robertson, who I've lost touch with. So this was the beginning of, my hunger involvement. This was like before meeting Sam Harris, who was on the thing tonight, the founder of Results and helped Marshall form CCL. And that was at our home over on Kenwood Parkway, where Claudia lived and Hoffy lived, and all kinds of people that I've talked about tonight were roommates with me at one time or another. And my beard is so red.
It is.
Yeah. And that's when I had contacts. Oh God, I hated those things. It hurt your eyes. And skiing was terrible because you'd get all, don't ever get contacts. So that's the end of the after party. We did it.
Nice job, Paul. Nice job.
Yes.
And we got some of our core members left. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry
that
Rebecca
was
didn't
fun.
make it, Mindy.
No,